for hire. For geeks, scientists, and engineers. Hooray, what a group. She founded her marketing consulting firm, New Insight, in LA in '97. Prior to starting New Insight, Jen worked in sales and marketing in the application software industry. After going through some vaporware years in the mid-'90s, Jen decided she'd sell something she knew she could deliver, her marketing expertise. Starting from a network of practically zero, Jen built her consulting business and her brand through good marketing practices and lots of networking and volunteering. Today, she has gotten results for hundreds of software and technology companies, manufacturers, distributors, medical companies, law firms, and other professional service firms. She is a graduate of Pepperdine's Graziado, sorry for that mispronunciation there, Graziado Business School MBA program, where she attended night school while maintaining her status as a top sales rep in the software industry. She's originally from the great state of Maine, where she got her bachelor's in English and American Studies at Colby College. She lives in Simi Valley, California, LA, with her husband, Jim, who's a biomedical engineering consultant, and their bossy Aussie, an Australian shepherd named Chiapet. Let's welcome Jen Beever. Jen, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, John and Jerry. Thank you for asking me to speak about this topic. Volunteering is something I know, and I just thought what I do is share a little bit of my journey getting started as a consultant and some of the do's and don'ts of my volunteering and networking and some of the results that I've gotten. So I prepared a little story to tell you. I did a little volunteering in high school and college, like probably a lot of people do. And then I got recruited into the software industry right out of college and in sales and marketing. I worked with a bunch of ex-IBMers and they kept me really busy. So not a lot of time for volunteering, and I traveled a lot. So I spent 14 years in the software industry before I became a consultant. And about midway through, I thought I'd go back to school to get my MBA. And I'm really glad I did it. And that kept me busy too. And then I decided to become a consultant. I had a great experience in the software industry with an ad agency, and I thought I want to do more of that. I didn't want to be an agency. I chose to be a consultant because I felt I'd be on the side of the client. And I, started out and I did all the business formation things and started talking to people and trying to find some business. And one of the things I remembered is in business school, they talked about the importance of networking and building your connections. And I thought, yeah, I'm busy, I'm working, I'm going to school. So, but then I thought, gosh, I really am starting out with pretty much a network of zero, if you will. And so I thought, what can I do here? And I realized, well, I have the alumni from Pepperdine, so I just decided to get involved with my business school alumni group and a group in the business school called Management Partners, where they did programming for business school alums. So I dove into that, and one day I was sitting in an alumna's living room at a Pepperdine get-together, and the gentleman beside me said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a marketing consultant. I was so new, I probably didn't even know what that was. But he said, oh, you're a consultant. Well, you must come to an IMC meeting, the Institute of Management Consultants. So he invited me as his guest to a dinner meeting at IMC, and there I was in Institute of Management Consultants. And as a lot of you know, you show up, and I learned a lot. I thought the programs were excellent. I liked the networking, so I stuck around. And then they collared me for marketing chair to help spread the word about the group and the organization. And then I also did a stint as in programming for the chapter events. And then at some point they they asked me to be the president. I guess they needed some help that year. So it was I just wanted to show this as a funny way. You think, well, how do I get started? And things start to snowball. And it kind of kept going on. Another person through Pepperdine introduced me to the World Affairs Council, and I got on the board of that organization. From that, CPA on that board said, you've got to be a member of this networking group. It's Provisors invitation-only networking group at the time, so that was pretty cool to join that. And then that opened up other volunteer networking opportunities. So did IMC SoCal. The people in that group referred me to other groups that were in line with my consulting to technical people, scientists, and engineers. And then something I was very interested in, strategic planning. So an IMC member told me about the Association for Strategic Planning. And I did a similar path in ASP where I did some help on the board, and then I was asked to become the president of the LA chapter when they created a national organization. And then some of you know from the chapter activity as a volunteer in IMC, I was asked to help on the conference committee. So that was Confab for 4 years and ConsultCon for a couple of years. And then I also served on the national board. So, I tried to, IMC and Provisors were the most of my activity. And then I tried to help out a different organization every year with pro bono consulting, pro bono marketing, just to help others and get the word out. I did try chambers of commerce and lead referral networks that I had heard about, but they just weren't for me. And it wasn't that productive. So wanted to share with you from zero connections. This is a mapping tool that used to exist in LinkedIn. I don't think it's there anymore. But as of 2011, this is what my network looked like. And it was quite a change from zero. And this program was really cool because you could set up a legend and see by color where the source of your connections. So you can see my business schools in there, IMC is in there, and the Provisors networking group, as well as ASP. So I just wanted to share that. And let's see. And then just a couple of comments I have. I do try to be strategic about the volunteering. You have to know your referral sources and join groups that have those people. My top sources are other consultants, strategic planners, and I'll call them the money people, so the investors. Know your target audience. One thing that's important to me, can I learn something and can I grow from the experience? Choose wisely, do your research, try to figure out what the organization is like, what the culture is like. They're all different. And I think we have to have an attitude of giving generously, because I know for me, a lot has come back my way in the way of referrals and business and just actually friends. So that's really cool. And my objective is always, as a volunteer, to make a difference. I like to say, I'd rather be part of the solution than part of the problem. So that's always my focus when I work with clients and with volunteer organizations. So those are just the slides that I had, and I wonder if you have any questions or comments about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a great talk, a great overview. To have a real picture, very interesting. I haven't ever diagrammed my involvements like that, and I suppose that would be useful to do that. Now, we ask if anyone has any questions, and we'll have more questions at the near the end of our program, but since there's a small group of us, you want to raise your hand if you have anything you'd like to ask Jennifer at this time or discuss, bring up. Otherwise, we'll move on. One question that I have is in budgeting your time, because getting the more groups that you're involved in and the more committees, oh my goodness, it's not just the time in the meeting, it's the emails and it's the preparing for meetings and the other things that you hear a need and you're like, oh, I can do that. And then you're like, oh, but when am I going to do that? And the last thing you want to do, is fall through when you're volunteering and then you're unable to meet a deadline. And hey, that happens sometimes. So, but it's not good form at all. So how are you budgeting your time around that?
Again, I think as I look back, with IMC, I have kind of served in some capacity, but I attend every meeting. I'm there anyway, so to me, it's not that difficult. And then, as I mentioned, when I had the little chart of everything up, I pretty much chose one of those many circles each year to focus on. So I didn't do everything at once, but I kind of ticked through different organizations depending on, what the opportunity was and how much time I had. And I think too, I would have to say all of those that I participated in had some amount of structure. So when they said, will you be a volunteer, it was specifically to help with marketing or be on the program committee and help make decisions, things like that. So it wasn't necessarily like being the chapter president. So.
Yes, this is true. When you were chapter president. So Jerry, did you have a question?
My number one source of business is referrals, and number two is speaking. So a very high percent came from meeting all the people, but not only that, it's not enough, in my opinion, just to show up, but you've got to have a way to showcase your skills. And so the volunteering helped with that. And I guess I thought I put it in the tips for volunteering success, because there are certain titles or certain positions that you can take in a professional association, for example. I'll give you one example. There's one organization where I would show up at meetings and people would say, how do I know you? I know you. Wow, your name is so familiar. And I thought, well, this is great. I'm a marketing consultant. But it was, I think, a large part of that was I was first I spent, 8 years writing articles for their newsletter. So my name was always in the newsletter, and I have a weird name, so people remember it. And then I became editor for a couple of years. And then, so I was on the front page all the time. And so it's things like that. The other thing is I happen to have a knack for programming. And so I've done a lot as programs chair in IMC. I did a lot for Technology Council and others, and Pepperdine. And when you're doing that, your name is often highlighted. You may be facilitating or emceeing programs, introducing speakers, advertising the programs, your name's on the emails, things like that. So it really gives a lot of visibility.
Great points.
Question for you, Jennifer. This is Tariq. I know now, I think with this virtual meetings, it makes it relatively easier for you to talk to people. I think there are several people from Chicago and other places. But that wasn't there in the past when the time that you were talking about. How did you physically go to all these meetings?
I went to local meetings in Los Angeles, yes. So typically any of these organizations would have one night a month when they had their meeting. And so I could I could go to, one a week, let's say, and depending on what the program was, depending on my schedule. And then I did attend national conferences. But the other thing that I've done as someone who came out of the software industry, have always worked with technology people. In my marketing practice, I adopted online marketing and SEO pretty early on. And so I was getting found online in addition to the local networking that I was doing. But I agree, today, this opportunity with people coming into Zoom meetings from all over the world, it's broken down those geographic barriers, right?
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. Thank you.